Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official Console Creatures podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Vegvar, and alongside me, as always, my good pal Bobby. How the heck are you today on Hollow Knight Silksong Eve?
Yeah, you know what? I was going to say something, but it's your day. I'm good. I know you're excited to get this day done and over with. How are you doing? Are you even going to sleep tonight? That's what I have to ask. Because, it literally is, like you said, Christmas Eve for you. So,
yeah, that's right. I mean, by the time a lot of people are listening to this, Silksong's already been out. Yeah, to answer your question, I am going to sleep tonight only because there's no point of staying up until midnight because Team Cherry is releasing the game at 10 o'clock Eastern. So by the time I get to sleep, wake up, make myself a little bit of a breakfast, get maybe even an early workout and just get it out of the way. It's Silksong time. I've strategically ensured that tomorrow I'm stepping away from work, not really being all that productive, and it's just going to be a day of Hollow Knight Silksong. 7 years in the making. I cannot believe this is actually happening.
I know it feels like it's been forever. I think I remember just when it was announced and how cool that was. But man, things have happened in 7 years. So cool. We're here. We're ready. We made it. We're on the other end of Silksong.
Yeah. I know, and I'm excited to get. I love the timing of it as well. You know, it coming out on the 4th, on the Thursday, and then we'll have the weekend to kind of start playing it, kind of start digesting and kind of seeing, and then we can talk about it next week. I think that's the perfect timing. I would have hated for this game to come out on like say a Tuesday, and we're recording this on our usual Wednesdays or something like that, and just kind of be like, I guess I played 3-4 hours of it. But I think that this release schedule has really boded well for us. And the other nice thing is that, Team Cherry has gone ahead and just said, hey, we're not doing release or like press codes or anything like that. We really do want to honor all those Kickstarter campaigners and everyone that backed the expansion. Yep. If you can believe it, this game started out as just like a DLC expansion back 7 years ago, turned into its own game. But they do want to honor that and like give those people a chance to play at the same time as everyone else, which I really respect. I think that's a very honorable move from Team Cherry. Is like, yeah, we're not going to give press and media and influencers all this advanced access. Everyone gets to play it all at once tomorrow. So or as of the time, we're recording this, but yeah, it's a very, very exciting time. And I saw, and I kind of want to hear your opinion on this because I saw something that was like very apt. I feel is that, Silksong kind of feels like the Grand Theft Auto 6 of indie games, is that this is just like an unstoppable force. It feels really exciting. It's an exciting moment for video games right now.
100%. Like that's kind of where it feels like look how many games are moving their dates just to not be in the way of tomorrow, and rightfully so, right? I mean, and I get people have different tastes, but like even still, it's Silksong. Like this is a heavily anticipated game. Like I feel like there's what other game is as on that same level as like Grand Theft Auto or like Silksong? Like what games talked about in that regard? Like there's few. I can't even tell you one. I think it's just the top two. It's just those two.
I think so. You know what? Until there becomes like another mass obsession in the industry when Silksong comes out and everyone's attention is like, okay, it's going to be like Wolverine or something, like like everyone has to fixate on something.
Which is fair. And that's fine. But ultimately, like I feel like these two are warranted. So like, I don't know. Yeah. The hype is real. I know people are excited, so like that's all I'm here for. Like, it's obviously not the first game I'm super excited about. Like, I'm gonna play it, but like, this is your day, so enjoy it. This is like for me for like when Final Fantasy comes out. So like, I get the feeling. I know. So yeah, tomorrow's Christmas. You order some pizza skulls, and you have fun. That's what you do tomorrow.
That's right. Oh, I should order some pizza skulls. That's right. Yeah, from down the street. Yeah, I should do that.
Pizza skulls and Hollow Knight. That's the combo you're going to be. Everyone should be doing. Like honestly, what's better than that?
I want to see everyone's pictures of the pizza skulls and playing Hollow Knight on their Switch or their Xbox or PlayStation, whatever have you. But everyone that's been waiting for this moment, definitely enjoy it because games like this don't come around all that often.
No, and I'm curious.
That being said.
Yeah, like I'm more everything. I just want to see like what they've added in the 7 years. Like what
Oh yeah.
I know they said they were having fun making the game, but like, what's changed and from a DLC to this full blown game? Like, how big is it? So,
Sure.
well, I'm
Yeah.
all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and with all that being said, there's a ton of games that we're excited to talk about with everyone, the audience. We've kind of we've reached this precipice where a whole bunch of games have come out. We
Fall
got a chance to
seasons
review a
thing,
lot of them.
yeah.
You're telling me, but yeah, I want to start out with Hell Is Us, a game that we got to preview on the show earlier, got to talk about months and months ago. But yeah, we both got a chance to play it. I know for me, at least, I rolled credits on it, and it took about, I want to say the in-game clock kind of lied to me, because now that I'm kind of like talking to other people, everyone's kind of like in the same ballpark of like, yeah, the in-game clock has kind of like expanded from like what's actually accurate. But that being said, my in-game clock says 50 hours. I would probably say it's closer to maybe 35, if anything, to reach credits. But Bobby, I want to know, how have you rolled credits? Have you beat Hell Is Us? Like, because I previewed it, I've talked about it in previous episodes and everything like that. You're coming in brand new, no exposure to having hands-on time with the game. I want to know your opinions on Hell Is Us, made by Montreal studio Rogue Factor.
Yeah, so my only exposure was that demo in June, and what you previewed, what you interviewed them in for, and like going in blind was probably the best thing I could have done. I've seen some really stupid takes online saying, it's not going to be a good game. It looks cheap, it looks this, and then you play this game and it's like, this game's amazing. It is so unique. The atmosphere, like everything about it, just like I can't get enough of it. I love it. I'm on the same boat as you. I think I wrapped up like a 40 some odd hours, 50 hours almost. But like, I don't know if that's the right time. But yeah, I ended up clearing up the final act. I've got a bunch of more puzzles to finish. I have a lot of shameful good deeds I kind of failed, which is my fault. But
yeah,
I love it. Like, it's a really good game. The only complaints, and like I posted in my review, is I feel like there's just a lack of enemy variety, and like as much as I like the combat, I mean, it's I wish there was a little bit more to it. Like, it's just very it is a Souls, like in some regards, how you approach enemies, but like I kind of wanted a little bit more, like a little bit more variety in the combos and stuff, and like the mechanics. But like, it's such a great game. I'm so happy that it's reviewing as well as it is, and like, I mean, it seems like the AA industry is kind of like the leader going forward now. Like, I feel like they've kind of overstepped and now, grabbed charge of game development. Like, they're the ones who are putting out the best games. Like, we're not looking at the AAA space anymore. It's AA games, and these guys who are taking chances on themselves and opening these studios and like putting their own ideas out there. And we get games like this. We get games like Chronos, the New Dawn. Like, we're getting these kind of games from AA Studios now. Like, they're toe to toe with some of the biggest games out there.
Yep. Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think that Rogue Factor really did step up to the plate and kind of show us what real, true AA games can be, and in terms of like almost bridging the gap between AA and AAA, because this game does feel AAA in so many different ways. But
in so many ways,
I think
so good.
The voice acting, Elias really knocked it out of the park. I mean, obviously his work on Deus Ex is incredible. I love Deus Ex, the series and everything, but to see him kind of come into this, we'll talk about it. I feel I have some criticisms about Hell Is Us, some that you've already kind of addressed and some that I want to bring up as well.
Yeah,
but as a whole, I feel like this game is just such an incredible love letter to games that we grew up with in the 90s, where you didn't really have all that much in-game resources to kind of direct you. I think that, in 2025, I feel like I've just been inundated with so many large-scale 100-hour games that really do like like have so much fluff and kind of just hold your hand the entire time. Like I think back to, you know, even Assassin's Creed, a franchise that, you know, both of us love near and dear to us. The entire time is basically you get a quest, it points you exactly where to go, and there's no real mystery or there's no real trouble, like there's no problem solving or puzzle solving in it. Hell is Us really does want to put the agency back in the player hand. When I previewed the game earlier, Rogue Factor really did discuss this whole system of like player plattering, of not having an in-game map, not having in-game quest markers, not having in-game, you know, checklists and checkboxes of all this stuff. It really creates its own system of listening to characters, a lot of like environmental storytelling, puzzle solving, writing down, you know, manual notes in a notebook and everything, or using what their own like systems in the game to kind of, you know, keep track of quote unquote missions, or what you talked about earlier, these good deeds and stuff like that, that really do kind of take place of what traditional missions are, or traditional, you know, side quests and stuff like that. But I think as a whole, Hell is Us is just such a special game. And in my, you know, let's just call it 40 to 50 hours, I think that it tackles such deep themes in so many different ways, and it makes you uncomfortable in a lot of ways. And I think that where a lot of my, while I can praise it for so much in its ambition and its creativity and everything, I do feel like Hell is Us is really just the first step in Rogue Factor making these kinds of games. I feel like this is a great base and a great formula to come out with Hell is Us 2 and knock it out of the park. Take it from like an 8 out of 10 if we were to score it or something like that, and make it a 9.5, because I think that there's so much good here. It just needs reworking. And to your point, like enemy variety, there's some like weapon type, like there's, you know, not enough weapon types, or not enough in-game systems and low quality of life things that can be improved on and really flesh this game out, because at its core, this is a really, really special game that I think challenges players, but also it's super solid all around.
Yeah, and I think those are the things. Like I feel like this is a good first iteration. This is basically, I feel, and I hope it's going to be Assassin's Creed 1 into Assassin's Creed 2. It's going to be such a big leap.
Exactly.
Two games, and like it has to be, because like they've already set a good precedent. Like they know what they want. Their systems are solid. Like they're solid. Like I love what they've done, but we can start getting into like things we don't like. But overall, like I mean, everything kind of works together. Like I adore the soundtrack. It is so reminiscent of Annihilation in how enemy. I love the enemies. I just wish there were so many more of them. But overall, like it is something I want people to play. Like I feel like this is the studio you want to support. It's Rogue Factor. It's just like, you know, not only are they a Canadian indie studio, but they're making games that no one else is doing. And and people can say it's a Souls-like. There are similarities, but they're surface level. It's nothing past something as simple as like a stamina wheel or whatever you want to call it. But like that's where it kind of ends.
Yeah.
Everything else is very unique. It's got their own flavor. It's got their own spin. And like I feel like they've nailed a formula that's kind of struggled. Like it's not open world, it's open hub. It's not overwhelming. Every area you step into is gorgeous. Dungeons are incredible. Boss fights are awesome. Everything just kind of comes together, and it's like, whoa. How many people made this? There's like, what, 60 people they're saying? That's insane.
Yeah.
It's a small team. And who's in it? Like
everyone was in-house. Everyone was in-house. They didn't know contractors. So even down to the music that you were talking about, I mean, like they had like such synth vibes and everything. They brought on their own composer to work on the game and everything like that. But I think to your point, like it's such a special kind of game, because talking about even the story of like you're playing this refugee who has left his home of Hadia, called Remy, and he comes back to search for his parents who sent him away, and basically say, hey, don't come back to this area. And he comes back and finds out that, Hadia is in the midst of a civil war between two groups. And along the way, you find out that there's these faceless kind of enemies called the Calamity, and you have to fight those and deal with this civil war. And you're interacting with, civilians that are affected by the Civil War. You're talking about, you know, NPCs that are dealing with like really, really deep shit of like, you know, there's like sexual assault, there's, you know, starvation, there's, you know, brutality, like violent brutality and stuff like that. And then all the while you have these enemies that are like roaming around these small areas, like, you know, open area hubs and everything like that. But yeah, along the way, you're just trying to figure out what happened to your family. You're interacting with these people, dealing with, you know, good deeds and stuff like that. You like, I talked about it in my preview, but there was at one point in like an underground section, I stumble upon a woman and her baby, and the baby's crying and crying and crying. You can hear it like in the distance of the halls and everything. And I approach her and she's basically like, hey, I can't leave because there are soldiers up above us and they'll, you know, take me in and everything. I have a couple empty baby bottles. Can you find me milk? And in my preview, I had no idea where to go. I kind of gave up during my like 4 hours. I would have spent so much time trying to like look for a source for milk for her. In the game, while I was playing, I discovered that, yeah, you can actively fail good deeds by, you know, waiting way too long, because what ended up happening, I eventually found the source for milk, came back, and literally the baby is dead. And I was like, shit. And
just died.
Yeah, it just died. And like, there's like a heavy sorrow.
Oh,
yeah, there's a heavy
bad.
sorrow
I actually
on you.
felt guilty. I felt guilty because I was like, well, the baby's crying. You're walking through these tunnels and you hear the baby echoing, right? And you're like, oh, okay, well, something's up. And then you find this woman who saved this baby, and she's like, I need milk. And then you get the bottle, and you're like, well, you have to get the milk from the cows. And then like, just like you, I didn't know there was a cutoff. Like Act 1, good chunk of the missions are basically like, if you don't finish them by now, like you basically, you're screwed. And I ended up losing like 5 missions or 5 good deeds in a row. Like I did, obviously that one I failed that one with the milk. And then the second one that really stung was the violinist, because like he was like, you need to get me these music sheets, and like, or I'll die. And like the guy's like begging for his life, and you're like, yeah, it's fine, whatever, you'll be fine. And then you come back later, and they hung him with his violin, and it's like, oh, okay, well, F me, I guess. I really screwed up. But it's like, I like the fact there's no like real guideline of like, you know, this is when this mission's cutting off, and like anything could happen at any time. And then I think a couple houses down from the violinist, there's like some lady who, there was like, and these are not, sorry guys, these are not spoilers. It's just side missions. Kind of just flesh out the world. Then there's another one where this man is in his. There's a couple that really stuck with me. Like the other one was one of the first things you see as you're crawling. You're walking up this hill and you see just a big hole with bodies in it, and this old man's there crying because his child's dead, and like you feel bad for him, and he's like, I have nothing to bury my child with. Like I need to bury something with her. And then I don't know what he was looking for until later on, and it was actually a teddy bear. And to get the teddy bear, you have to trade it for some other item with another parent that died, because those 2 kids were in the same class. And it was like, oh, this is terrifying. This is like sad. And then the other child had a teacher that ended up killing herself because she was so guilty of what happened. She couldn't save her kid. So like, there's all these stories that are intertwined. And it feels like a real civil war is happening, and that's kind of what I love about this Hell Is Us. There's not just one story you're following. You're following 3 different story threads. You're following Remy's story. You're following the civil war in the country, and then you're following the supernatural elements that are overtaking this world. So you got 3 stories to follow simultaneously, and they intertwine so like perfectly, and like they're threaded through each other, pretty spectacularly. And I'm like, this is great. This is what I love, but
I find them very compelling.
Yeah,
I find them very compelling. Like I find Remy's story like really, really good. You know, there's those interstitials where he's being interrogated by the gross, disgusting little smoking man and everything.
He's something out of straight up like a Metal Gear game. I feel like that guy is so weird.
Yeah, or like Resident Evil 4, like the traitor. I
never got his name, but like he was grotesque. I don't know what his deal is, but I don't like him.
Yeah. And then there was the Calamity, and Well, so yeah, like I was saying before, there's so much of the game that really like you have to listen to characters. There's no like in-game diary and stuff like that. They do have like systems where it's almost like a Bristol board where you have character faces and then strings going off, and like it will give you like bullet points of what these characters have said and stuff like that. They'll sometimes offer up clues to figure out puzzles down the road and stuff like that. It really does encourage you to kind of actively listen or take notes on your own to kind of get to some of the dungeons and stuff like that, or even some of the puzzles out in the open world to solve them. But the thing is that like there's so much. I I I almost do compare it to like a Souls like where story is so like passively told to you. You kind of just have to, you know, do your own due diligence of investigating and reading little notes and listening to tapes and everything like that. It puts so much agency on you. But the fact is that even by the end of it, I feel like I've only really like cracked the surface of the story. Like I really do hope that players that do end up really enjoying this create like video essays on what exactly is happening, because I feel like I I feel like I put so much time into listening and trying to actively participate in the story, but I still don't really understand like where the civil war even started, because they talk about it spanning like centuries even before the game started, and the game takes place in the 90s. Even the some of the calamity. The one thing I will say, and this was a huge bummer for me, is that so I get to the end of Act 3. Uh, yeah, the third act is probably like 40 minutes or something like that, and get to the final cinematic, and my game crashes, and I
Wow.
don't know what happened. It booted me back to like a state where one you can't see that cinematic, you can't quote unquote complete the game again. It's basically just like at a state where you can go out and finish good deeds and stuff like that, or to finish the time loops and other puzzles. But yeah, I got like halfway through the cinematic and then it just crashed, and I never got to see the end of it. So I'm gonna have to wait until someone else beats it on and then post like a video
That's
on
the
YouTube or
thing.
something like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
weird. I
that was
had
a
zero issue. Like, I mean, that sucks. That's probably the worst thing, even for me. Even at that, I think the biggest issue I had was maybe some slowdown, but like the game's pretty incredibly thoroughly vetted. Like
yep.
it's smooth. Everything plays well. Whatever. A couple, you'll probably see it today. Like, I mean, that's not the worst, but like it still sucks. But
No, no, it was just kind of a bummer.
it's,
I will say that playing on Series X, I did have 3 hard crashes all throughout my playthrough.
yeah.
So that's just I'm just throwing it out there. Other than that, like you said, it ran pretty effectively. I want to throw it to you because I know that you brought up combat, and I know that there are some like interesting systems in the game and everything like that. So for people that don't really know how Hell is Us is kind of similar to a Souls like or it's different, do you want to kind of explain that and maybe throw your own critiques on the combat?
Yeah. So I do want to preface that you interviewed the creative director and he kind of spelt it out for what the combat's kind of is. And I like the
Yep.
analogy he said, when you're playing sports, like, your stamina only goes so far and you can only perform so far. And like as you play more and more, you're gonna get tired, and ultimately one punch can really like knock you out or whatever he was saying.
Hmm.
And combat in that situation is basically I do like the fact that your health and stamina are tied to one bar. So if you take damage, you lose health and stamina. So like that regard, I feel is better than in a Souls like. And we're like I said, we're a differentiate. It's not a Souls like, and there's a light and heavy attack. There's just one button for
Right.
combos, and then you have your dodge, but you have this charge attack instead of the heavy attack. So there are similarities, but I feel it plays more like an action game than a Souls game, because you're not, you don't have to wait for and see what the enemy is going to do. You can strike, you can do 5 or 6 hits, and then hope for the best, right? Because you could take out an enemy in about 5 or 6 hits, right? So like it isn't like a Souls like where you have to methodically watch and learn patterns and stuff. Like that stuff will help, but it's not like the crutch that a Souls game has. This is a little bit better. I feel like I do like that regard. I do like that you're encouraged to die. And I like that when you die, it's just like that grotesque guy saying, that's not what happened in the story. Tell me what actually happened. And then you go back and you just replay it
Yeah,
again.
I really love that.
Like, I love that. Like, it's just like, yeah, no. Have some more truth serum. Tell me what actually happened. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
But like when you go back and like you learn from it. And like the biggest issue I had, I don't think it's an issue, is it while it has elements of a Souls like it becomes too erratic to be a Souls like. The enemies are too unpredictable, and that was where I struggled because they're super aggressive. If you leave it on like the default setting, like I had a hard time predicting where they would move because like you have like the base enemies, and then as you know, they all spawn off into different emotions like grief and wrath and like terror and all this stuff, and like that's great, but like once they did, it was like they move so alien like. So it's like you can't predict what they're doing. Like I love that about that, but it's also a boon. It's also it's detrimental to the gameplay because it's like, well, how do you react to that? Because like basically you have to take the hits or stay back, and like that's what I feel like separates from the Souls. Like it's just like it's so unpredictable because at least with the Souls like it's like I said, it's a dance. You kind of learn the steps, you know what to do. This one it was a little bit different, where I had to basically
there's so much more telegraphed in a Souls like game compared to this, and for context, like once you start getting through the game more and more, you end up finding these enemies that like spawn haze, what they call them, and it's basically like another enemy that's tethered to them. You have to kill the haze in order to kill the faceless white ones, and they're all kind of inspired by like different feelings. You have like a rage, a terror, ecstasy and stuff like that, and they're all
I love
colored.
that stuff.
And
I do love that, but
I do too. I just feel like it wasn't fleshed out enough.
Like I had no idea what the purpose of them was. Like I was kind of thinking like maybe like, hey, if I craft like a pole arm of terror, it'll work more. You know, it'll be more powerful against like grief or something. Or like it was none of that. It was just like, oh, they're just weapons and they look different from each other with different names, and that's all it came down to. And I kind of was hoping like it'd be like a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing where, you know, you see a blue enemy, so you have to strike with a yellow weapon, or like, you know, the vice versa. Like there's none of it. It was just like, here's your weapons. You get to pick two of them and you stick with those. And that's kind of ultimately what I did. I ended up sticking with the axe and the one-handed sword. Because the axes are
I ended up using the one-handed sword and then the great sword because I there was something about the great sword, and especially when you got to like imbue it with one of these, you know, different feelings and stuff like that. It apparently gives you some sort of like buff. I still don't really understand the system. It feels kind of like there was a system in place and maybe they didn't flesh it out enough, but it also changes the appearance of the weapon as well. And once I got the different appearance for the greatsword, I was like, oh, this is fucking badass. I'm keeping this and just playing around with this.
I love the designs. I love the sword designs. I love everything about that. But like ultimately it was just like, you gotta just pick the ones you like the most that look the coolest, and you kind of stick with them because
honestly,
right? But excuse me. Why the axe is probably my most preferred is just because, like I said, enemies are so hard to predict. So how do you counter that with a really fast weapon? So I can do way more damage with the axe and get out faster than with a great sword or pole arm or one-handed sword, because they all strike slow. So that was kind of why I picked them. But like, I mean, ultimately, like I just wish there was a little bit more variety overall in combat. Like it's fun. I like it. It's kind of floaty, except for when you're dodging, which feels straight out of like a Demon Souls or Dark Souls game, because it really feels like it was just pulled from that. But like everything else kind of has like this floatiness to it, which I didn't really vibe with as much as I wanted to. But I'm hoping if there is a sequel or something else in that vein, like they kind of just finesse the combat a little bit, add a little bit more weight to it, and some more variety. Like I feel like that was that was probably my big complaint, is there was just, you know, a dozen or so enemies, and despite despite them having some really unpredictable patterns, it's just like you see one and then you see the other one, and then it just repeats every like 5 or 6 minutes as you're going through like the hub areas. But
yeah, I think even by the time you get to the end of the first area, you've seen essentially, I would say like 80% of the enemies. And then as you progress, they get more difficult. You go from like level 1 enemies to level 2, level 3. The one thing I want to say is that when I went through the game and spent, 4 hours during the preview, I was getting my ass kicked. Like this felt like on par with a Dark Souls or an Elden Ring or something like that. The preview I played, the build that I played was very punishing.
Yeah.
They stripped that back completely in this game. I played it on normal. I thought, and I'm not trying to boast my skills or anything. I found it relatively easy. I didn't feel myself, feeling all that punished for the way that I was playing, or to your point, the weapons that I chose, I felt like all of them were very, I felt very powerful with the weapon set that I used, especially even with the drone that you have. You can, install different attack types and stuff with the drone. Yeah, yeah, Cappy. So I felt like overall, like the combat and the difficulty was scaled down to such an easier degree, maybe an more approachable degree. And I wonder if Rogue Factor kind of took a lot of the feedback from those previews earlier this year and kind of just went back to the drawing board and kind of made it more approachable. Because I feel like I was getting my ass handed to me earlier this year, and throughout this game, I thought it was pretty approachable. I didn't find it too difficult up until like some certain boss rooms or stuff like that. But yeah, I really like the combat. I think that they're onto something good. But yeah, by the time you go through and fight, the drone, the guys that don't really do anything, or you have the guys that look like the moths, or you have enemies that kind of shoot stuff from afar. They don't really change, no matter, even if you go like level 1, level 2, level 3, they all act the same. They all behave the same up until you get the ones that have the haze built in, and they're tethered to the haze, and the haze alone acts so erratically, you can't even really tell the enemy patterns. You kind of just have to brute force your way through it. The one thing that I did really like about the combat and the combat mechanics and everything is that the game incorporates what they call like a healing pulse, which is kind of like an active healing system. So if you get hit and it's kind of hard to explain, but you have this system
like
in place that if you're
to basically recover the health you lost.
Exactly, and it kind of encourages you to be more aggressive and defeat the enemy, and then there's a ring that circles your character, and for like a 5-second window, you can hit the right bumper on the controller and kind of regain some partial health and everything. It kind of reminds me of Gears of War with the active reload, where if you do pull off like a perfect active reload, your next you get a little bit of a perk or a buff to yourself.
Yeah, I'm mixed on it. I mean, the more you play the more the more it makes sense. But the first like 5 or 6 hours, I hated the pulse. I just didn't get it because like I'm doing what it says. Like, you have to like wait for the white circle to show up, then you press R1 for me, and then I was like, okay, well, but it's not working. But what it doesn't tell you is you have to wait for the white bar, and then like a little bit after, like a split second after, like another second ring comes out, and that's when you press it. And it was like, well, that doesn't really, it's not explained. It just says press R1 when the circle's around you, and like it's stupid. It is a stupid. I would rather it be like the active reload in Gears of War, because like at least that was simple. It just once it's in this little white space, you press the button. You don't have to worry about pulsing and stuff. Like it's stupid. Ultimately, I understand it, but I didn't like it. I don't think it's a good mechanic. The idea they need to dial it back.
That's fair.
And to the point, there's very few healing items in this game. So, like, if you're expecting to find med kits everywhere, you're in for a bad time, because even the ones I ended up finding didn't really restore health. They more restored my endurance. So, like, when I find a med kit, like, it was few and far between. I think I got like maybe, I'd say like no more than 24 of them throughout the entire campaign. I feel like that's what I found. But
okay.
The healing pulse is the only thing. Like you have to learn it. You basically do have to learn how to master the healing pulse and like get that timing down. I only wish there was like a tutorial mode where you can just battle a couple enemies and get it down pat. So
yeah, I do feel like there's a timing element to it that really does. It requires you to kind of learn it on your own and kind of understand it, because to your credit, I went through my preview months ago. I had no idea how to use it. I never used it once. In this, to your same thing, 3-4 hours. I didn't really understand it. I was like, I feel like I'm not really doing it. The timing is a little off and everything. And then it finally clicked, and then I almost exclusively went through the game just using healing pulses, because to your point, there's not a lot of healing items. And the one of my criticisms of the game is that like its in-game menus in terms of like its inventory and the notes and everything is so muddled that there are items that I never even use. There are to your point, like carrots and onions that you can eat that replenish your stamina. I never use that.
I just got rid of them. I was like, this is stupid. I don't need this. I'm throwing it out.
Yeah, there's another consumable that you can use to reduce the cooldown on your drone's abilities. Never used that. And I wish that kind of Rogue Factor kind of went through its in-game systems and menus and kind of refined that, like for a game that really does put the onus on for a game that really does put the onus on taking your own notes and everything like that. You do build up a healthy stash of little written notes and everything like that, or like little in-game maps and everything. And the issue is that when you look at it from a broad perspective in the game, you have like 50 of them, and then if you have to go back and be like, okay, well, I want to figure out the puzzle to open up this lock or something like that, you have to like kind of scroll through, go through one by one and kind of remember where this note even was, because it's so, I don't know, it's so busy in some of these menus that I wish there was a way to kind of auto archive some of these things when you no longer need them. Because one of the things I really do love about Hell is Us is its puzzle solving mechanics, and that part of the gameplay loop of going out into these small hubs, figuring out what these puzzles are. It really brings me back to games like Resident Evil, of finding the rose key and figuring out, okay, what does this open up? Is it a treasure chest? Is it a door somewhat down the road? Is it a door that I've already come across and stuff like that? I love that about Hell is Us, because they nail level design in such an interesting way. Every single time I got to another part of the game, whether it's the first larger semi-open world hub or some of these like smaller places, you get in, you're like, man, I feel so lost. I don't really understand where I'm going to go, what I'm going to see. Am I going to remember that this puzzle was over here in this corner? And every single section of this game, I can now rescind, and like they feel like the back of my hand. Like you get to know these parts of the game and everything, and I feel like this is like level design 101. They knocked it out of the park.
I 100% agree. I think those are probably the strongest aspects, and I had a blast just trying to solve everything. Ultimately, not everything I could do myself. I had to refer to the guide that we were given, just because some puzzles just, I don't know what it was, they just didn't click for me. But like, once you kind of see how they thought of it, it was like, oh, okay. And fact, man, the dungeon design is incredible. That first Limbic Forge dungeon is probably my favorite thing.
So good.
It's so good. Like even to your preview, like you said, it feels like the water temple in Legend of Zelda. And I was like, really? You're going to compare it like that? And then once you start playing, you're like, oh, really? Okay, this is really what it actually is. Exactly that comparison, and I loved it. Every second of it, it's like you're not only exploring, but like every hallway is a puzzle piece that you're trying to put together. Like you're going down this hallway and there's some lore about like the ancient, like the people who started Hadia, and like then you're learning something in that hallway, and then you go further down and it's like, well, you need this puzzle piece. It was like like an amulet piece that you got to go to the other side to get. And then once you get it, you come back and you put it in the thing and it opens up like a hidden door. And it's like, oh, this is cool. This is so cool. And like I did it, no guides, nothing. And like I love the fact that I didn't have to even like reference a guide. It was just like you're in this place, you're stuck here, explore and get out safely. And that's kind of what it comes down to. It's like how fast can you beat this thing? Because like time is key. You want to get out because people are waiting for you to open up the forge so you can start building more of these weapons that you need to fight these monsters. Like I love that. And then there's some even later on this every hub area is beautiful. I don't think I found one I didn't hate. And I normally don't like marshes, but like I love the Akasa marshes here. I love the one by the waterfront where you got the mountain and then you've got like the blue flowers. Like I loved every section.
Oh, that one's gorgeous.
Anywhere you step in this game, it's like this is picturesque. It's weird that everything here is so gorgeous, but then you turn your head a little bit and there's like war everywhere around you. There's burnt tanks on the side. There's dead bodies over there. And more to the point, it's like the most haunting image I've had in this game was I had to go, and just to circle back to the good deeds, there's one early on that kind of plays into everything because I need him to get to another dungeon, and you have to go to that tree where the bodies are hanging. You have to get that bear. That image stuck with me because like that area, that marsh is so gorgeous. And then you see this tree, and then you're like, "Oh, that's cool." And as you start walking closer to it, then you start seeing like a dozen bodies hanging there, and it's like, "Oh, this is messed up." Like it really feels like Rogue Factor has really done their homework on like the issues that a civil war brings with it, and like the factors and the just what comes of it as you're going through it, like every day, like you're either struggling between this and this, and then one bad move and like they hang everybody, and it's like they literally just killed a village on this tree, and then you have to go there because you need an item to go back to a dungeon. It's like, damn. But yeah, back to the dungeons. I love them. I guess I have to say that's what it is. I love the dungeons. They're so cool.
Yeah, no, I agree, and yeah, it's great level design. I think I think one of the biggest challenges for Hell Is Us going into this is that a lot of people are going to hear our thoughts and other reviews and stuff like that and probably think to themselves, well, I don't really want to take notes. I feel like maybe this is overwhelming in terms of what it's demanding of players and everything. And I do want to preface that while, yeah, it takes a very hands-off approach and it's storytelling and it's, quest markers and stuff like that. At no point do I think that the game is unfair in how it doles out information. Like it does put the onus on you to kind of pay attention. Like I've been calling Hell Is Us like the anti-brain rot game, where in so many different other contemporary games, I can launch into a cutscene, bring up my phone, and I'll end up, just mindlessly scrolling through TikTok or something like that for the 45 seconds and then come back to the game. I don't think that you can do that with this because it is a little more demanding than that. But even some of the more difficult puzzles in this game, I feel like it gives you all the tools, everything that you really need to know. You just kind of have to pay attention and be like, okay, well, I remember picking up a note 5 minutes ago and it's, I need a combination. And that note said, blah, 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 the number 8. And it has it like almost in bold. Like it does want you to really pick up on the fact that it's, giving you a number or a series of numbers. And then you can just take that and use it on the combinations. And it's really stuff like that. Or a character will be like, well, to get to this temple or to get to this dungeon, you have to take the northeast road out of the town. So what do? Instead of having like a quest marker or pull up like an in-game map, you just pull up your compass and start walking northeast, and eventually you'll come across a road. You'll follow that. Like it just takes a little bit of logical puzzle solving and problem solving, but that's really all it is.
I feel like if you can't do the bare minimum and do what's asked of you to play a game, this is not for you. And like I'm at this point in life where not every game needs to be for every person to play. Like there are some asterisks to that, but I don't feel like every developer should cater to every player because that's not how taste is. There's nothing in the world that is catered to everyone's taste. So if you can't put your phone down or pay attention to what's going on, then stop playing. This is not for you. Like, that's fine, but don't get upset that this is not for you because you're not willing to invest what's asked of you to do it. So you know what? I actually prefer this. It's hard to remember this is what we used to have like 25 years ago. This was just like the standard. There was no compasses, there was no maps, there was no hint systems, there was no unlimited lives. It was just like, here's the game we made, play it and like enjoy it, and that's it. And like that's what I love about this game. It's just like, this is Rogue Factor's vision. This is what they wanted to create. This is what they created, and I appreciate it. I think it's great. I feel like it has done a good service to me to remind me that games have come so far since I've started playing them, since you started playing them, and they've pandered to too many people, and like I'm kind of over that. Like, it doesn't need every game needs to, like I said, everything doesn't need to be for everybody, and like that's fine. And that's kind of where I'm starting to turn my opinion over on Souls games. Like, I don't think they're made for everybody, and that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And people get upset when you see that, right? But ultimately, like, you know what? There's so many games that go play something else. Like, if you want to play this, you have opinion. There's other ways to play it. Like, you can throw a cheat. You can throw a trainer on it. You can play with extra health. You can mess with the system a little bit, but like, they're all alternatives. Like, I just, that's what it comes down to from what I'm seeing now. It's just like, it doesn't need to be for everybody, and I love what they've done. And I would be actually upset if they started adding things, to make it easier, because it is actually perfect as it is.
I agree. I can't tell you how refreshing it is to get to a puzzle, get into a room with, statues that you have to turn a certain way and everything, and not have the without spoilers, the person that's assisting you throughout the game to chime in and be like, hey, have you tried turning the thing counterclockwise? Like, it's just so refreshing to not have a person just tell me what I'm supposed to be doing in the game. Like, I love just being able to do it on my own, and you get that gratifying reward when, to your point, like when you find two separate medallions and you're like, okay, I remember a half an hour ago stumbling across a locked door that needed these symbols or the medallions or whatever. Like, I just like that gameplay loop. I find it very refreshing. And to your point, I do agree that not every game needs to be for everyone. But that being said, I think that Hell Is Us approaches its systems to be as accessible as possible, because, like, to your point, like, you can
dial the
with combat, you can exactly, you can change the combat, you can change to be easier, to be more difficult, and everything like that. So
that's fine.
I don't
ultimately, we're talking more of the actual meat and bones.
I agree.
The exploration.
No, I totally.
I've been reading online, like, just the stupidest opinions, like, oh, I have to pay attention to this. No, I'm good. I'm not going to play this. Oh, this looks terrible.
Sure.
What world are you in that the bare minimum of you paying attention to what you're playing is too much for you? Like, I just don't get it. So maybe it's a different generation. Maybe it's got these people just don't, are just being trolls. But like, ultimately, like, what you're getting is so cool. Like, you're actually doing yourself a disservice by skipping it. So ultimately, like,
I agree.
I rated an 8. I loved it. I'm eager for more. I'm rooting for Rogue Factor. I love the fact that it's a Canadian studio making Canadian games for the world. So like, it's Canada's year. It's Canada's year for the games industry. I feel like we're doing so well.
Yeah, I really like it. I hope that whether or not Rogue Factor goes on to do Hell Is Us 2 or some sort of other game or series or anything like that, I think at very minimal they really prove themselves in the AA space, creating a great, ambitious game in a sustainable way, hiring internal employees of like 55 to 60 people, I believe, and just doing everything in a very creative way. Like, there's so much that reminds me of a Remedy game in this, but it has like its own spin. And I really do love this game, top to bottom, even though there's a lot of room to improve in another one, or to kind of just learn from previous mistakes and kind of just take it in another direction for a brand new game in the future.
Yeah. So like I'm fully on board. I'll be there day one. Ultimately, like, you know, they've earned my respect, my trust. I'm with them day one.
Yep. Agreed. Bobby, you had been playing Chronos, the New Dawn, and I want to know all about this because I feel like this is a game that is right up my alley, but because there's so much coming out around this time of year, this is a game that will ultimately go to the backlog for now. But I still, I'm very curious because Bloober team has been firing on all cylinders, releasing games at such a rapid clip, but it seems like this one is kind of special, really special. So yeah, I want to hear more.
Yeah, so this is definitely a Steve ass game. Like that
Hell
top
yeah.
level, this is a Steve ass game. Like from the opening like psychological test to like the first like 4 or 5 hours, like this is definitely you're gonna be one of your best games this year. I already know you're gonna love it. It is a mix of Silent Hill, Dead Space, and I would even say a little bit of Alone in the Dark. It's got a little bit of all those elements, but it ultimately feels like a spiritual sequel to like a Dead Space game. So like you're known as this traveler who was like one of many, and your predecessors have tried to complete this mission and have failed. So like throughout the level, you'll see their bodies, and basically, without going too into spoilers, like your job is to go to these places in the world and find these people who are important to the timeline and extract their essence and basically save them from impending doom. And in this case, it's a mutated virus that's basically destroyed Poland. It's set in the early 1980s, so it's a time when martial law, and it's based on real events. So it's during martial law of Poland, like 1980. 1, 2, or 3, somewhere around there, and basically it's just you're exploring these apartment blocks and playgrounds and storefronts, and you're going through hotels, and you're just fighting these monstrous things called orphans who are like the necromorphs. They're basically the same, but they're terrifying because the whole thing is that if you get more than one in a battle, like they're gonna merge and they'll get super powerful. So every time you get more than one in a battle, they begin to merge together and it becomes something even scarier and a lot more difficult to bring down. And Chronos is particularly difficult because it really minimizes how much ammo you get. So like this is a game where I died a lot, and I played it twice. I had to play it twice because there was some technical issues that basically I had to wipe my save out, but I played it once. It was very difficult, and mostly because you're exploring a lot of hallways and like dark areas, and it's crowded and it's claustrophobic, and enemies come at you in waves. So like you might get one. Like I was in a hospital alleyway. It was like just like an old dilapidated hospital, and it was just covered in like these orphan like pods or whatever they're coming out of. And there's an issue where like any good horror game, like you don't know who's going to pop out, you don't know what's going to come at you, and they all started coming alive. I moved a bookshelf to get through like a certain block space, and then next thing I know, I had like 5 or 6 enemies on my back, and I was cornered. And the kicker is, like I said, there's so limited ammo. Like you basically have 3 or 4 shots, and enemies take 3 or 4 shots to go down. So you basically have to plant every. So you're stuck fighting these massive mutated monsters, and your ammo is basically, life or death. Like if you don't have enough bullets, you're gonna die. You're gonna play it again. I had one section where I basically had to play like 12 to 15 times to get through it because no ammo. I had no torches, and you need to have fire with you available at all times because as they're merging, the only thing that stops them is fire. So you got to make sure you have torches, and it gets really hectic, but ultimately, like it's a great game. The issues that it has though are, the story takes a backseat. Like it is through and through a Dead Space game. You've got that stomp, you've got the punch. There's no dismemberment, which kind of disappoints me, but you can still like shoot their legs and knock them out and stuff like that. But if you're asking what this game is, it really is a spiritual sequel to Dead Space, and it just sucks that we're not getting survival horror games right now. Outside of obviously like Evil, right? Because like these games are so special. I feel like I prefer them to third-person shooters. I love survival horror games. Like they just always keep you tense. Like you're always on your toes. You got to look around every corner. It's a cool game. I wish, like I said, the story just kind of like it's fine. It's whatever. It's sci-fi. Like you're dealing with some time travel. You're dealing with jumping back and forth between like present day and like the early 1980s, and just trying to find these people that you need to make sure this situation is not as bad as it originally was. So your story, the essence and stuff like that. But I mean,
right.
It is a good first outing. I really hope that Bloober team takes this blueprint and gets the opportunity to make another game, or I'll hope they get to make a new Dead Space, because like they know what makes survival horror tick. Like they're really good at it. Like, Bloober team is probably my top horror developer at this point. Like I don't know who's doing it better, and I'm not counting Resident Evil because like, that's just the standard. That's kind of what we know what to expect. But
sure.
In a counterpoint, like Bloober team has nailed it down. Like Resident Evil 2 was incredible. Bloober team's Chronos is just below that. I think Silent Hill, they set a standard for what they can do. This hits a lot of the same check marks. It is great. Movement is great. Enemies are like disgusting. They're grotesque. I love the Traveler. She's very monotonous, but she has not much to say. But like ultimately, you end up liking her. And specifically for you, this is a Steve-esque game because there's lots of cats you find in this game. You have to collect cats, and
oh hell yeah!
Every cat you basically you befriend cats. You're fighting alien, whatever these mutated things are, and saving cats. So, two of your favorite things are coming together. So, like I don't know what else I can tell you. This is definitely one of those games where I feel like you're gonna have such a great time. It really hits all those check marks of what Dead Space is. You got telekinesis powers. You've got environmental puzzles. You've got some really nasty boss fights. A lot of the power-ups and then the weapons are so cool. There's some really cool stuff you unlock later on, and I don't want to spoil it, but like you can get very creative with how you start attacking these mutated aliens or whatever they are. But man, it's cool.
Sure.
It's such a cool game. There's a lot of backstory you're gonna have to obviously read through like audio logs and stuff, and it does that thing where we do like where it just plays the audio log as you're walking. So like that saved me a lot of time. So be prepared to read a lot of stuff, a lot of articles, a lot of journals, because you're going through all these, like I said, all these dilapidated buildings stuck in the past. And you're just learning that all these people were locked in their apartments, and like some of them are infected and no one knows what's going on. And it just kind of shows you society kind of de-evolving through like the 3 or 4 years that the situations happened in the 80s, and like how bad it got before you ended up showing up. And like ultimately, like it's a great game. I feel like it's not reviewing as well as I had hoped, but like I don't know if that's just because people are just not invested in this kind of game, or they don't want these kind of games. But like I loved it. Every minute of it was incredible. As frustrated as I got losing repeatedly, once you finally nail like that 1-2 punch of how to get around like a group of enemies, and like planning where you put fire canisters, and like when you shoot them, and like having enough charge shots to take them out, like it comes together so well. Like the encounters are probably my favorite part of it, just fighting them and surviving. But yeah, it's great. It's honestly a great game.
Yeah,
I'm happy that it exists. I really, really pray that we get a sequel, because like I could see this going for at least 3 or 4 games. It's good. It's great.
I'm really happy to hear that Bloober team has kind of had this turnaround, because while I loved earlier games like Layers of Fear and everything, I feel like Blair Witch and the Medium didn't really hit as much as I wanted either of those games to. But then, yeah, given the success of Silent Hill 2 and then now into Chronos, which is a brand new, original IP from them, they really are kind of proving themselves after, I feel like, so much time. So
Yeah,
this is definitely a game that's going to be on the backlog for me. I feel like, yeah, survival horror. We had such a great year for survival horror last year with, Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Silent Hill 2, yeah. The genre just kind of, went away for a little bit, but I'm glad that Bloober team is still releasing such good games at such a rapid clip.
Yeah, like it honestly sucks. Like I would love at least 1 or 2 survival horror games a year because, like, honestly,
yeah.
After, like, I felt what the game that really got me involved and just sold was, as many I played all like the big ones. It was Dead Space 2. I think that was like the perfect survival horror game. I would kill for a remake. I would love to see a remake. But in the meantime, while Motive's doing what they're doing, Bloober team stepped up. They know what makes these games tick. And I just want to make just a quick note. The sound design is incredible. If you have a good sound system, oh man, it is so creepy. Just having that 3D sound in my room. Guns are punchy, like they pack weight. So, like, the most satisfying thing in the world is shooting off a couple rounds, nailing a charge shot, and just hearing it echo in my room because you can feel it. You can actually feel the guns so like immediately. Like you feel it. You shoot and like the controller shakes and the room just goes, boom, and you hear everything. And it's like, yeah. Bloober's team, sound design team, like they're some of the best. Like they've nailed sound design, and that's the highest praise I have because I've been playing a couple of really bad games that this summer that just their sound design was just so subpar. Like it was like I have the 7.1 surround system and like everything's coming out of like just my front speakers because they didn't spend the time, implementing sound design, and it goes a long way. Or like you have that level of intimacy when you have full sound unleashed in your room. Right? Like it does make a big difference, and it's basically like putting on a pair of glasses and watching a 3D movie. Right? It brings everything to life. Yeah. But great sound design. Music is so creepy intense. Characters are pretty creepy intense. Everything's great. Like, honestly, this is like a perfect Halloween/holiday game. I feel like I'm kind of bummed about is it launches now instead of like say in October, closer to January, because I think those are my 2 favorite times to play these kind of games, is either just before Halloween or just after Christmas.
Sure. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to pick it up and play it once I clear out some of the other games that I've been playing. Which I do want to touch on another game before we start wrapping up, which is Lost Soul Aside.
Yeah,
another game that has been long in the making. I mean, this game first started development back in 2014 by an individual called Yang Bing over in China, who was very inspired by the Final Fantasy franchise and games like that. And throughout development, he started getting more and more people involved and hiring, and eventually Sony took notice of this game and it kind of got involved with the China Hero project, and then it kind of became this exclusive PlayStation 5 second party game and everything, and is finally here. And I have some mixed opinions on this game, Bobby. I know that you kind of been going through it yourself and everything, but for me, this game teeters between being unintentionally hysterical. Like there are times where I've never laughed so hard unironically at a video game, but then there are moments where the combat is really good in some ways and then uninspired in others, and I'm torn. I feel like I'm being like stretched out in so many different ways because of my opinions on this game, but at its core, I'm not done, so I don't want to put like a final verdict on this or anything, but just based off 10 hours or so and rough impressions of this, I feel like this is just a very underwhelming experience for PlayStation 5
Rightfully
players.
so. I'm only a couple hours in, and honestly, I feel like I'm being gaslit by playing this game. I just feel like what we saw, what we've been promised, is not what we got, and like I feel like the English dub is like the most embarrassing thing I've heard this side of 2025 because like it feels so reminiscent of the early 90s where dubs were just so unwieldy and so mismanaged and I don't know. It just
no
feels
direction, no emotion.
And here's the kicker, though. It feels like it's the perfect dub for those Chinese movies that I watched as a kid, where they just dubbed over it with whoever wanted to do the job. So like I feel like it's authentic in that regard. Like watching an old Jackie Chan movie where he's the only one speaking English, but everyone else is dubbed over. So like it's just or like those old offensive like kung fu movies where everyone's like mouthing the words like excessively, and it's just like. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. It's just you can just talk, but it becomes like this really bad drama, and it's like anytime I hear the guy's name being scribed, Kaiser, I'm thinking of like California sandwiches because I just want a Kaiser bun.
Honestly, yeah,
it's like this is dumb. And I feel like I'm just gonna call it a day and switch to the Japanese dub just because I feel like I would rather just not listen to the English because it's just so bad. But it's also so funny. So it's like, what do I do? It's like, do I just keep going because I want to see how bad it gets, or do I just stick with it and then switch over to the Japanese and like at least get the half decent performance from everybody? But I don't know. I feel like it pulled all the wrong lessons from Final Fantasy 15, and it came out 7 years too late. I feel like this game probably would have done a lot better 7 years ago when FF15 was a relevant game. 2025, like you've now got games like FF7 Rebirth and Remake and FF16, and those are the peak pinnacle of action RPG. Like you really can't get anything better than FF7 Rebirth. So like really, how do you match? So
and it tries to wear its inspiration for specifically FF7 16 on its sleeve so much to almost like an embarrassing degree, in my opinion. Like even the way the game starts out and where like how you start learning about Kaiser and his like band of secondary characters and everything like that feels so coded in Final Fantasy 7, but it has none of the elegance, none of the emotion tied to it, anything like that. And then along the way, you're introduced to Lord Arena, this ethereal dragon entity that Kaiser unlocks, and Lord Kaiser kind of gets imbued and stuck with Kaiser and everything, and you go along on this journey and everything. And the dialogue between the two is just so heavy-handed in all this, overtly complex lore and everything that I'm like, I don't even know what the hell you're even talking about half the time.
It's just verbal diarrhea. It becomes verbal diarrhea.
It really is.
I don't know what you have to say at this point. Like, I just don't even want to hear you talk. I'd rather just play the game. And like, I'm getting to the point where, like I said, either I stick with the English dub or I just start skipping scenes and like, I don't know what to do. It's like there is a good game there. It's just I feel like like the studio is basically too yellow to understand what's going on. Like they're just too fresh. Like I feel like they needed people with actual experience to make this game, and it doesn't feel like that's what we got. It's just so abrupt in some scenes. Like you that's one scene you posted. It's so abrupt. Like you're just walking, and then it just cuts to the scene where this kid gets kicked in the face, and it's like what?
It's wild because like I don't understand what the direction really was with the story or with its scope and everything like that. And some of the visuals and the graphic and in-game use of Unreal Engine 5 can look good. Like there are some skyboxes which look pretty good, but then you go from this opening where you're in a town, there's a whole bunch of civilians, there's a whole bunch of like this, that, like it feels lively in as much of a PlayStation 3 kind of way as possible, and then it just abruptly stops and you get sent to these like dimensions where all you're going through are these monster closets. There's no just side quest, there's no real characters that you're interacting with, with the exception of for the most part, Lord Arena, who's kind of just constantly chatting in your ear and everything like that. So it feels like it goes from almost like a console, like a launch day console, like PlayStation 4 game, all the way down to a PlayStation 2 game where it's just bare bones and all you're doing is interacting with, and to give it its flowers, I think a pretty compelling combat system. I think that in as much of a compliment as I can give it, it does teeter towards almost like a Final Fantasy 16 and almost Stellar Blade in some regards, where there's a pretty compelling like dodge system. There's a compelling parry system in there. I don't think that the timing is as tight or as robust as either of those other games, but at least they try. There are ways of like upgrading your weapons and stuff like that, but it just becomes so repetitive and so like monotonous of going through monster closet after monster closet, getting to some really compelling like boss battles. I think the boss battles are pretty cool. Some of the character designs aren't offensive in any way, but yeah, I think that is just everything in between just kind of is a bore. It's a chore. It's laugh out loud funny in unintentional ways. I'm not enjoying it so far. That's the big thing, is that I'm kind of forcing myself to play through it because I wanted to talk about it on the show.
Right.
I do intend to continue playing it, but at no point, like, I'm already a person who doesn't like Final Fantasy all that much. I played 7, I played Rebirth, I love 16. But then to give me like the Temu version of this, I'm like, this isn't for me.
What they call it is. It's the Temu version of Final Fantasy, and like, it is just so. It's not bad. It's so mediocre. There's nothing that it does really well.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to. Like, it is the perfect 6 or 7 game. Perfect 6. I'm not gonna go 7. It's a 6.
Yeah.
It's a good 6, and I can see where all the cracks are. I can see, and like, granted, like, we all know by now. I mean, I think it's pretty known knowledge that review codes were delayed because they didn't want it in the hands of reviewers for this reason, because they knew it was going to be like this.
That's right.
It feels like it is the total opposite of what Sony did with Stellar Blade, because look how great that game ended up being. It was really good. And this is like the complete opposite. It feels like it took all the wrong lessons and applied them. So
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think that there's just like baffling decisions also made where they don't allow you to craft any healing items. You have to talk to this again, ambiguously young like schoolgirl that kind of like follows you around in some missions. She just ends up appearing and you have to talk to her to replenish your heals. It's just very strange. I don't really understand why they have this kind of like pseudo fireplace mechanic from Dark Souls in this game. There's also I find like there's too much inspiration was taken for this game, and it doesn't do any of it a great service. Like you said, it doesn't do anything offensively bad, with the exception of the English dub. I think that it is really offensively bad. But in terms of its in-game systems, the way it looks, it runs perfectly fine. I'm not offended by its performance or anything like that. I'm not offended by the way it looks. I just think that it's all very middling. It's all like everything is a 6 out of 10. There's nothing that really inspires me to go back, like to continue playing it. I'm forcing myself to, and I'm not really engaged with the story. I'm not engaged with the combat all that much. It's just
so middling. And it sucks. So I mean, like, it just sucks when a game that's been in development for almost 10 years ends up being a dud. And what can you do, right? I mean, thankfully there's just so many games to play, and like, you know what, that's fine. I'll play it, I'll review it, and then I'm good with moving on. It's definitely not going to be a game I go for the platinum on, so even better for me. It just means I have less time with it. So I'm excited to finish it and move on, which is going to be this week. I'm just looking forward to get it out of the way.
I agree. Yeah, we'll talk about it some more in case, like, opinions or anything really change all that dramatically, though I don't really see it changing all that much for me. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about it more on the show in the coming weeks. But that all being said, Bobby, if people wanted to connect with you and the website online, where could they do so?
Yeah, consolecreatures.com on Bluesky, Instagram, X, Twitter, Facebook, and you can find me at bpatchleaders on all socials. And check out the site. We've got lots of cool stuff, lots of interesting previews coming up, and a couple more reviews, and a recap of today's 007 First Light State of Play, which was pretty cool. So check that out.
Very cool. Yeah, very much looking forward to that game. And as for me, you can find me across the internet at svigvari. We really appreciate you listening to this episode, following the feeds and everything, really supporting us. It means a lot to us. And yeah, we hope you continue to come back for more because the summer and fall of games continues on, and we'll have lots more to talk about next week. But until then, we'll see ya. Bye.